Hello, dear listener. As you gently settle into your bed tonight, take a deep breath in and let it go. Let your thoughts soften, your muscles relax, and your eyes begin to grow heavy. You've come to the right place for a peaceful story from long, long ago. A tale not of war or king's conquest, but of a calm, ancient world filled with whispers of forgotten winds, incense-scented air, and quiet trade routes winding through time. Tonight, we journey to the highlands of East Africa, where the mist rolls across the green hills of Ethiopia to discover the tranquil history of a once great, now slumbering kingdom, the lost kingdom of Axum, a place of towering obelisks, distant echoes of soft-spoken gaze prayers, and sunlit markets buzzing with the peaceful rhythms of everyday life. Let us begin, slowly, gently, as you drift ever closer to sleep. Long before the modern maps took shape, in the cradle of East Africa, there was a kingdom built not on war, but on wind and water, on trade, on gold, and on stories told by the flickering firelight in gentle voices. The kingdom of Axum, or Axum, rested between the Red Sea and the Ethiopian highlands, near the modern-day lands of Eritrea and Tigray in Ethiopia. It's believed that Axum began to quietly flourish around the 1st century CE, perhaps earlier, like a flower blooming where the world least expected. Its location was magical, perched along ancient trade routes connecting the Roman Empire, Arabia, India, and even faraway China. But tonight, we don't rush through time. Instead, we walk slowly, like a merchant camel caravan, with patient footsteps. Imagine now the gentle plod of camels, the sound of cloth rustling, and the scent of frankincense and cinnamon carried on a soft desert breeze. The people of Axum spoke softly in the ancient Ge'ez tongue, a language now only heard in sacred chants echoing in Ethiopian churches. Their days were slow and deliberate. In the early morning, the aroma of fresh flatbreads and roasted coffee beans would drift across stone courtyards. As children swept the earth with palm brooms and old men sat under the shade of sycamore trees, markets opened with the first golden light, not with clamor, but with the rhythmic unrolling of mats, the soft clink of pottery, and gentle laughter. There were no loud proclamations, just the warm hum of life, of artisans shaping ivory, of scribes quietly etching words into stone tablets, and priests burning incense in quiet stone temples. They believed in a gentle balance between earth, sky, and spirit. Axum was not just a place of kings, but of families, farmers, and stories passed from grandmothers to sleepy children, much like this one. Among the marvels of Axum were its great stelae, tall, slender obelisks carved from single pieces of granite. They rose like fingers pointing toward the heavens, standing watch over quiet fields and gently whispering trees. The tallest, known as the obelisk of Axum, once stood over 30 meters high, though it now rests quietly in its home after years away. They weren't tombs of terror, but peaceful markers, like stone lullabies reminding the people of their ancestors and the eternal cycles of life. Even in their enormity, they were carved with care, door-like features, small windows, symbols of homes, perhaps so the spirits could sleep peacefully inside. The city of Axum itself was not grand like the fabled cities of Rome or Alexandria, but it was elegant in its own quiet way. Built from soft brown stone, its homes nestled into the hills like sleeping animals. There were no towering walls, because they did not fear invasion. Instead, they built tall houses from carved stone blocks, stacked with care, often with wooden frames and thatched roofs. Water was carried in clay jars from cool mountain springs. Children chased goats along winding paths, and smoke curled gently from chimneys in the morning chill. One of Axum's oldest and most cherished stories is that of Queen Makeda, the Queen of Sheba. It is said that she ruled with wisdom and grace long before Axum reached its golden age. She traveled far across the sands to meet the wise King Solomon in Jerusalem. From their union, a line of kings was born, tracing their blood back through Makeda and even further to ancient divine roots, whether legend or truth. Her story was told in lullabies and hymns, in whispered reverence, as the night fell softly over the hills. To the people of Axum, she was not just a queen. She was the spirit of the land itself, strong, enduring, and deeply graceful. As Axum grew, so too did its spiritual heart. In the 4th century CE, a king named Izana quietly embraced a new faith. Christianity, brought not with sword or conquest, but by the soft words of a shipwrecked boy named Frumentius. Izana listened, and in time he was baptized, becoming the first Christian king of Axum. Crosses were carved gently into the stelae. Churches rose in soft stonework, and the ancient Gehez chants filled the valleys with songs of peace. Even today, those chants are sung in Ethiopian churches, echoes of that serene conversion long ago. As Christianity quietly spread through the Axumite lands, so too did art take on new meaning. Carving shifted from ancient symbols to graceful crosses, soft floral patterns, gentle arches. Churches were hollowed into the soft rock, cool, peaceful places where light filtered through small windows in gentle beams. There were no golden altars or grand cathedrals, only quiet stone chambers filled with the smell of incense and the faint chant of Gehez hymns echoing against walls. Children would press their palms on stone walls, feeling the stories etched within them, stories that had no need for loud proclamations, only presence. And in the bustling heart of the kingdom, gold coins shimmered softly in the palms of merchants. Axum was among the first African kingdoms to mint its own currency, coins engraved with symbols of kings, and later, the cross. They were not just currency, they were quiet proclamations of peace, stability, and faith. Some bore inscriptions in Greek, a nod to distant lands with which they traded silk, ivory, myrrh, and spices. In marketplaces, these coins passed gently from hand to hand, never thrown, never shouted over, but exchanged in soft voices and mutual trust. Beyond the hills and markets, Axum's ships glided along the Red Sea, simple, graceful vessels with tall sails, heading toward faraway lands. They reached Roman ports, they touched the shores of India, and even whispered across the Silk Road. From these journeys, they brought home not just goods, but stories, languages, and dreams. Indian spices, Roman glassware, Arabian manuscripts, all found resting places in the soft shadows of Axumite homes. But no matter how far their sails drifted, the people of Axum returned home with hearts tied gently to the hills. Axum's artisans, working patiently by the light of the morning sun, sculpted more than just stone. They painted soft murals on plaster walls, simple images of birds, vines, and crosses, colored with natural earth pigments. They wove linen from flax and dyed it with herbs gathered from gentle hillsides. Nothing was hurried, nothing wasted. Even tools were shaped by hand, from bronze or iron, softened in small hearths and cooled in clay bowls beside trickling streams. Everything they touched, they did so with quiet care. In the evenings, when the day's labor ended, families gathered around slow-burning fires. Mothers braided their daughters' hair. Grandfathers told old stories from the days of the Queen of Sheba, and the scent of roasted barley and honey drifted through the dusk. Drums beat slowly in the distance, not for war, but for rhythm, for joy. Songs rose not in fanfare, but in waves, melodic, layered, soft. It was in these gentle moments that the heart of Axum truly pulsed, not in conquest, but in community. Though many scrolls and tablets from Axum are lost to time, the rhythm of their daily life remains in the earth. In the quiet ruins, the outlines of homes still whisper of their builders. In ancient water channels carved into stone, you can still imagine the soft trickle of mountain spring water. The layout of temples and courtyards tell us where people gathered, where they prayed, where they simply sat to watch the sun rise and set. The animals of Axum's countryside lived in quiet companionship with its people. Small herds of goats grazed in the open meadows, Bees buzzed around fig trees, and birds with red and green feathers sang in gentle morning air. Children knew every hill path, every shady tree, and played beside cool streams without fear. They carved toys from soft wood, shaped tiny animals and carts, passed down from older brothers and sisters. In this slow rhythm, time itself seemed to pause, not rushing forward but simply being. When rain clouds rolled over the highlands, the people did not flee indoors. They welcomed the rain like a friend, standing quietly under thatched eaves, watching water kiss the leaves. The rains brought life. Crops swelled, clay softened for pottery, and the rivers whispered their thanks as they rushed a little faster. Even the stellae, worn by time, gleamed under the rain like sleeping giants bathed in silver. It was a time for reflection, for gratitude. Axum's seasons passed gently, like pages of an old storybook. The harvest came with quiet celebration, the new moon with humble prayers. Even in decline, there was no chaos. The people adapted, moved gently into the highlands, where churches were carved deep into rock, and candles burned with patient light. The old capital was never abandoned in anger. It was released, like a bird set free, allowed to rest, and in that release a legacy took root. Even now Axum speaks, in old songs sung by monks at dawn, in children learning gay airs in shaded courtyards, in the quiet resilience of Ethiopia's mountains. Not every kingdom must end in fire. Some, like Axum, choose to sleep, their stories held in stone, in story, in memory. So as you rest tonight, know that you too are part of that memory now, carrying it gently forward. Now, dear dreamer, let your breath slow, your body soften, and your mind drift. The hills of Axum are quiet now. The wind rustles the grasses, and the stellae stand in gentle silence. You have walked with merchants and queens, listened to chants echoing in stone halls, touched gold coins and rain-kissed fields. All of that is now a soft part of your dreaming. Sleep well, and when you wake, carry the peace of Axum with you, like a whisper from the past. Good night.